Hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about tessellation, and I'm not sure if this is something that is going to be affected by uh, Nanite now that that's come into Unreal 5. But you will see this tessellation idea inside of Unreal 4, and you see it in Unity as well. And as far as I know, it's still a valid idea. Um, so what it is basically is it's a subdivision of the mesh uh, of the geometry that's happening on the shader, and then it's basically pushing vertices, these subdivided vertices up and down based on a height map. So it's just really a height map. What you will see is you'll see cracks you know, in the terrain once in a while, and you'll see cracks on different meshes, and there's ways that you can reduce that. Um, I believe with smooth shading and stuff, you can improve that. You can look for them and work to avoid them. So what this looks like here is if I turn on my wireframe, you'll see off in the distance here. This is kind of the undisplaced or you know uh, it's just the base geometry, and then um, I've got this set up so that I'm not by default out of the gate. Unreal does it handles this automatically or automagically. So if you look at a tessellation settings on a material, let's have a look at it. There is a I've got this set to flat tessellation, and this adaptive tessellation is an automatic feature that kind of comes with these. Um, and what what I've what I've done is I've actually in my shader, and this is a solution that you know I anyone can find online. It's not my solution, but it's useful. Is that it's taking the camera position, so from wherever you're viewing in this scene, and then it's taking the vertex position, so whatever the geometry is in the world, and it's figuring out the distance between those, and then that's important for creating a mask basically. Um, and then so this is just a mask that then lerps between the maximum number of times I want to tessellate and then the minimum. So this is I'm going between 64 and 0 here, and then I'm plugging this into my tessellation multiplier. So that's quite a handy setup. And what that does is it limits the amount of tessellation. Obviously, there's some cost to this, right? So I can kind of set how far away do I want to start. How far away do I want to go with this effect? You know, so that's where that limiter kind of comes in. You don't want to be doing it across the entire scene. Um, you need the requirements are you need kind of quads, I guess. Little oddly shaped triangles and stuff aren't going to tessellate very well. So you kind of want a nice even amount of geometry, evenly spaced quads. So landscape is great for landscape. And what you end up with is just kind of a terrain that's got, it's got actual volume in it. You got little rocks sticking out and stuff like this. So this is where you see it. You can see it kind of moving off in the distance there. You can see it kind of, I can I can change that. So for in here, if I look at my instance here, I can set the with that. Remember we were looking at this here, this calculation here. I've got the offset, so I can set how far away I should start, fading this out, and then I've got the fade length, which is like how far it will fade. So again, in here, I've got the offset to, I believe that is I'm not sure what the actual world units would be. Maybe somewhere around like um, a meter, and then fading for another 2 meters. I think that might be off slightly based on the tiling here, but or based on the distance from the camera to the geometry. Um, what I can do though is I could say set that to 400, and you can see it goes out further now, and then the fade as well. Maybe I make that a little bit further as well. So you know, you can set as would suit. But now I don't see any transition at all really. I don't really notice any change at all. This has a different material on it here, so you really notice that, coming in. So this one again, if we set those higher, the distance higher, obviously it's going to be taking more performance, but just something to be aware of. So now as I back away, we don't see that transition now. It's a lot smoother. So let's look at the shader then, the actual tessellation. And there's one other thing I wanted to talk about is you need a sufficient amount of divisions for this to work on your terrain. So let's just look at the shader quickly. So what's happening here is we're taking the in this case we're taking landscape coordinates, and then we're multiplying them across our normal and our color and stuff like that, and our roughness and our height information. So this is kind of a little idea here is we're taking height information that sits between 0 and 1. So what this would do if we just applied this directly, multiplied against a normal direction. So for the terrain, the normal is obviously just pointing straight up. So it's just going to push everything straight up. For a cube, it'll just point it in, push it in whatever direction the normal is facing. That's a vertex normal. So if we just plug it in directly and apply it, it will it'll just push it in the positive direction. So we end up with more cracks that way. So if I just plug that directly there, you'll see on my let's see here. You'll see on my wall now, or on my brick, not my brick, my cube, that's actually just pushed it in the positive direction, and it's kind of opened up a seam along there, which it's neither good nor bad. Maybe you want that, and for the terrain, maybe that's advantageous as well. I don't know, but what I've done here, and I've seen this done in other places, is you remap this. So you use a lerp, a linear interpolate, to go from -1 to 1. So you're going, instead of from 0 to 1, you're going from -1 to 1. So it's just a remap there. And then you're taking that value and then just multiplying it by, the distance is kind of, I could go with height. Height might be a better name here. I don't know. It's just how far you want to push it, off the regular. So again, I'll save that, and then we'll go to, we can look at this one here. So again, that's kind of closed up some of those cracks a bit. Again, if this was a smoothly shaded cube, I don't know if I've got an example of a smoothly shaded cube in here. So I might, but just take my word for it, it would be less prone to cracking. But I can really push this value. So I've got the height now. I can really, so that's at 0, and then I can push this quite far. I think I've set that maximum to 100. So that again is all geometry that's just being displaced off the surface. For the terrain, if your terrain doesn't have enough divisions, then this is not going to it's not going to look correct. So what you can do is in your landscape settings is you can click on resize here, and then when you're changing these section sizes, instead of expand or clip, you can set this to you can set this to resample, and what that will do is it'll raise or it can raise or lower the number of divisions, right? So if I resample this, it's currently at 127. If I resample to, let's go from lit to wireframe. So you can see all that geometry in there. If I go to resample this to 15, for example, and I hit apply, you'll see that that reduced it significantly. And of course, it's also changed my it's changed my scale as well here. So I've probably got to go and, you know, tiling. Okay, I don't want to go higher. There's one. Let's go to 0.5. Where were we at there? I think we were at 0.05. I'm multiplying. I should be dividing here. It'd be a lot easier instead of multiplying by a small number. What's 17 to 120? What was that? It's about 100 times, isn't it? 0.5. That would be about right then, somewhere around there. But what you'll notice now is I don't have the what I've lost is the actual geometry to support that level of information, right? So it's just not as convincing. It's just that the height is there. I mean, this would work for like ocean waves or something maybe, or like something that didn't need a lot of fidelity. Like, you know, it might even work in this case just to have a bit of an offset or something. But what would be better is if I just had, you know, you can play with in the shader, you can play with this number of, you know, tessellation, but you are limited somewhat in how high you can go with this. I believe it's 64. Some of the older Unreal, I think, is 15. The maximum tessellation you go to is 15. So again, you're limited kind of that way, but then you can resample the actual terrain itself, which is the kind of the trick, I guess, to have more base geometry. So I'm going to go from, let's go all the way up to 255, and again that's set to resample. I hit apply here, and this will be probably really a lot of geometry now. And again, I've got to go and adjust the tiling here. So let's set that to 0.005 now. No, that's too low. 0.01. Still 1. 0.05. 02. 0.03. I don't. 0.04. Okay, we'll go 0.05. Oh, you know what? I think the height is going to be something we need to adjust. There's definitely a lot more geometry in here now. And let's go a little bit lower here, 0.03. Make it a little bit larger. And again, that height. I mean, we'll leave the height there. It is pushing off quite a bit. But you can see that I've got, if I look at my geometry now, I've got a load more. I'll probably have it'd probably be like a solid mesh almost, a wireframe. Yeah, you can see that it's really really intense here, the amount of geometry I have. And I might have to be careful with the distance now as well. Maybe instead of that larger number, I'll bring that back a bit closer again. So maybe 200 and 200. That distance from the camera, or even 100 and 200. You can see that kind of coming in and out in that wireframe mode, and that's going to take less resources, but yeah. So hopefully that helps you with setting up your tessellation shader, and I'll leave it at that. Bye now.